This is the Wrestling Old Head. You have entered the portal of pro wrestling.
What the world is watching.
So today I thought I would riff off the top of my head, just kind of go over a little bit about WWE developing their future stars and what it's going to mean for these programs that they're implementing and that they're streamlining for the future. You've got the LFG program, which are bringing stars that are not quite ready for NXT, but that have graduated from the development program, like they're independent structured. Like, so you got the WWE ID, then you go through the Performance Center, then I assume that you go through LFG, then it's NXT, and then you're off to the main brands. So you can kind of see there's a way in to the WWE. You also have the NIL program as well. The NIL program are collegiate athletes, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. They're collegiate athletes and other sports athletes that are given the opportunity to come in and train to be WWE superstars. So you have the WWE ID program, which are looking for the future in independent wrestling, the NIL program that are looking for like future basketball, football, tennis, volleyball, cross and track and field type of athletes, and they're trying to bring them in. And then you have LFG, which will get them to the point of being ready for television, and then NXT, which gets them an opportunity to develop their character, and then the main brands. So you got a lot of development going on here. So in the next 10 to 15 to even 20 years, WWE is going to have a way to cultivate their future superstars in a way that has never been done before in the WWE or any professional wrestling company known to man. It's going to be a conveyor belt. You're going to see superstars from the beginning, and I'm sure they're going to film it. And I'm sure they're going to document every single step that it takes to get to a level of being an icon, being a legend, being a future Hall of Famer. So I felt it was really important to tackle this topic because growing up as a wrestling fan in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of the superstars that came into prominence, they clawed and they fought their way and they were given an opportunity, and they couldn't miss this opportunity. They had to take the brass ring and they had to knock it out of the park. There was more than likely an enormous amount of pressure and weight on them to make what they had of this opportunity. If you think about Bret Hart in like 1992 and 1993, exclusively a tag team wrestler for so long. There is the steroid trial. Google it. And Bret Hart is given an opportunity to be the WWF World Heavyweight Champion. And he is in the Royal Rumble main event against Reza Ramon, Scott Hall, and say what you will, he did what he could. It is at that moment that he figured it out. He learned the system. And even though he could not carry the WWF the way that he would want to, 4 or 5 years later, he gets into his own as Hart Foundation leader Bret Hart as a heel and knocks it out of the park. So he was given an opportunity to run with it at a time where the WWF was desperate and they needed somebody. And then a mere 3 to 4 years later, he's knocking it out of the park. Do you get what I'm saying here? So for instance, WCW, they had their training facility, the power plant. From there, the only superstars, and please correct me if I'm wrong, off memory, that I can remember that actually were main event stars that came from that power plant that weren't known previously was the Giant, Paul White, and Bill Goldberg. Everybody else that came from that facility to the level of Goldberg and Giant, they wouldn't measure it up, right? So now the WWE has an opportunity to capitalize on their future. Look who's in the main event right now. You've got a who's who. And I'm looking at Paul Levesque and these programs that he's implementing, and I'm saying this is an opportunity for him to put an action plan in effect to not only make these future stars, but to justify these programs. Okay? So like Jey Uso, Jey Not Like Us. Jey Not Like Us is at the tail end of his 30s. Besides that, you have Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, John Cena, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins. All veterans, all been at the top of the card, aside from Cody Rhodes and to a lesser extent CM Punk for a while now. But inserting some fresh blood is essential to keep the WWE thriving, and it's really not an easy thing to do because you can throw them in prominent positions, but it's a mixture. You've got to let the fans know who they are. Who are they? And the crowd endearing, whether they hate them or they love them, but they know them, is super, super important for them to remain on top, right? So there's really got to be a reason that the crowd accepts and appreciates them. Like if you look at the Motor City Machine Guns right now, they've essentially been thrusted into the tag team division. They wrestle, they're there, but we don't really know who they are. There's no video package describing them. There's no history on Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. The WWE is expecting us to go online, look up Motor City Machine Guns, and figure out who they are. It's very much the way that AEW does everything, to be honest with you. They don't want to give you any backstory to these guys. They bring them in, you figure out who they are, and then you follow along once you catch up. That's not always how it works. You got to understand this is a casual business. Casual wrestling fans, guys that are tuning in, maybe they haven't watched in 4 decades, maybe they don't watch regularly like you and I do, the ones that are listening to this video. I'm sure you guys are obsessed with wrestling just like I am because you're watching this video. So you got to understand that some of the casual fans, they need to be spoon-fed a little bit. They need to know who they're dealing with. They need to know who these guys are. And right now, Charlotte Flair, she is wrestling Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania 41. And I struggle, someone that watches all the time, really knowing who Tiffany Stratton is. Like really knowing who she is. And I understand she came from the NIL program. She, she's got an athletic background. She is not from professional wrestling exclusively. She wasn't on the independents. This is an extreme opportunity for them to justify these programs by putting her in a position to be a top household name. She's got the crowd. She's got a catchy catchphrase in Tiffy time. And that's all great. She's athletic as hell. She's got she knows her way around the ring. She is great in the ring, okay? I'm not taking anything away from her for that. But we have to justify why she's there, and we have to justify by explaining to the crowd who she is. It's the only way that we're going to get them to really endear themselves to Tiffany Stratton. And they're doing things with like putting her with Trish Stratus. They're doing things by explaining that she's a little bratty. She's a little overly confident. So the way that they're telling the story, in my eyes, is that she's going to be humbled by Charlotte Flair. That's my mindset, but that's for another video. The point is, for somebody like Tiffany Stratton, for somebody like incoming Trick Williams, Obafemi, even Braun Breaker to a degree, because Braun Breaker didn't go on the independents as far as I know as Rex Steiner. The son of Rick Steiner came into the developmental program exclusively and has honed his craft exclusively in the WWE. So for a Braun Breaker and a Tiffany Stratton and then a Trick Williams and an Obafemi and then Sol Ruka, it's important to cultivate that talent and put them into prominence, because the competitive nature of the WWE, you're going to have people from the independent circuit, you're going to have people from AEW, you're going to have these people that are trying to make a name for themselves as they have been for a long time, and you're going to mix them in with people that have been streamlined to learn the WWE program, to learn to have a way on the microphone, to be able to talk to the audience, to way to structure matches, the way to be a superstar. So there could be some interesting things that come of that in the WWE, as long as they cultivate it, right? It's especially helpful if you have a groundswell of organic support. That's really where I feel like it's one of the reasons why Jay Not Like Us, Jay Uso, is reviewing his opportunity here. He is receiving one of the biggest opportunities in professional wrestling history by winning the Royal Rumble. Nobody expected him to win, and they presented a 4 to 5 year story arc that carried the WWE through these murky waters, and the reward for following along with this story is that the character that they all gravitated to the most in Jey Uso is finally getting his shot, finally getting to live up to his name of main event Jey Uso. And it's also letting the fans know that if you scream loud enough, if you cheer wildly for this superstar, then we will hear you and we will give you what you want. It's basically what the WWE promised about a decade ago that they would do before the Daniel Bryan protests, if you remember, where the McMahon stood in the ring and said, "We hear you," and followed that up by basically saying, "And we don't give a shit," until the hijack of Raw and the Yes movement that led to Daniel Bryan getting inserted into Mania. He had to go through a video game's worth of obstacles before he was able to be crowned the champion at that time. And I believe he even left that WrestleMania hurt. So this could very well be Levesque saying, "We hear you and we do give a shit, and this is what is best for business." The WWE has a few up-and-coming superstars that the crowd is ready to get behind, so it remains to be seen if the right story fits and the crowd reactions stay course, because there's a lot riding on this new wave of talent coming in and becoming legendary, especially with these programs that they have going forward. This conveyor belt of superstars has expanded with the ID program, as I've said, the LFG program, which connects to NXT, which drops them off when they're ready to Raw and SmackDown. And the next wave of drafts that call up NXT stars to the WWE is going to be really important. And I'm looking at the development of Trick Williams, like I said, Obafemi, Fraxium, Julia, Sol Ruca, Stephanie Vecchio, Roxanne Perez, Ethan Page. They're all basically close to being called up, and their success is essential for this ID program and for LFG. And I say that it's more Trick Williams and Sol Ruca than Julia and Ethan Page, because as I've said, if you think about it, Ethan Page and Julia, they understand the way that wrestling works because they've been on the independents. Julia in Japan, Ethan Page clawing his way through Canadian and tri-state independents all the way to AEW, and finally getting his opportunity in the WWE. So there's going to be this mix of these types of superstars, and as I've said before, the WWF, the WCW, and then even like up-and-coming companies like ECW and TNA, they relied on established names. The WWE is trying to cultivate established names, and their developmental programs' success is going to be relied upon guys like Trick Williams, gals like Tiffany Stratton, and their success. So if you have any questions of why Tiff Stratton is already wrestling Charlotte Flair at the granddaddy of them all of WrestleMania, look no further than these programs that they're putting lots of money in, that there's being lots of television shows produced. They want to make sure they're getting their ROI, not Ring of Honor, return on investment. And they're going to do what they can. And I hope for them that they're successful in that, because I would like to see what the WWE does when they go the 2K route, the video game route, of taking a creator wrestler from the beginning all the way to superstardom. It'll make their video games a lot more successful. It'll make their product a lot more successful. And I think they're in good hands when you see someone as talented as Tiff Stratton and you see someone as talented as Trick Williams. They've got to find out how to get to that next level. And as long as they're listening to the veterans and the legends in the back, I think they're going to be in good company. I really wanted to talk about the developmental program for a second. AEW really needs a developmental program, because for a while now they caught fire with some great talent that they haven't been able to fully pull the trigger on. And I just felt it was important to talk about it and go over that, because I think development of talent is essential to kind of getting out of the rut. Because right now AEW is in a rut. Say what you will. I'm not trying to be tribalistic here, but I'm just speaking facts. They're in a little bit of a lull. They're in a bit of a rut. Every company goes through it. They can get over that hill. They can get over that hump. They just have to develop the new stars. I like what they're doing with Hangman Page and MJF, Swerve Strickland. They're giving us a reason to care. Who are they, right? The same with Tony Storm and Mariah May. Who are they? We're figuring out who they are. And I think that's great. And I think guys like some of their other homegrown talent, we just have to figure out who they are. They have to tell us who they are. They have to explain to us. They have to get us emotionally invested in these newer guys so that we're attached to them and that we're along for the ride. Fans will tell you who they like. They screamed for the Acclaimed, even though they didn't know who they were. They just liked their attitude. They liked the fact that Max Caster rapped and Anthony Bowens riled the crowd up, and they had Billy Gunn by their side, who they were recognizing. That's why they were into them, but they got to know who they are before they can get them to the next level. Once they know who they are and establish them as a character, their sky is the limit. There's no ceiling after that. They can go as high as they want to go. And I think that's important. So I just thought I'd bring that up. You guys let me know in the comments about the developmental program. Who do you guys see coming from the developmental program versus from the independent wrestling that can be the future of Hall of Fame in the WWE, the future legends, the future superstars? You guys let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thumbs up on the way out keeps the notifications going. Comment in the comment section. That's where you comment, and I'll comment and get back to you. As always, the Wrestling Old Head here in the portal of pro wrestling. Stay tuned for more.